The perfect way to describe those words is mini but mighty. Bonjour, bonjour! I'm Kashi and this is Let Us Learn French, where we make French a little bit easier and a lot less confusing. Today we talk about two small words in French, en and y. These two words are so small, yet they cause so many problems for people trying to learn French. Yes, they can be pretty complicated, but today we're gonna simplify everything and make it less confusing. So if you're excited, give this video a big thumbs up and let's go! The first thing to keep in mind is that neither of those words are really used for people. They are mostly used for objects or animals or sometimes places. So as we'll be describing when they're used, just keep that at the back of your mind that people is an exception. So we won't be using en or y for people. Let's start with this one. So it's written en and pronounced as en. En. So the first use of this word, and let's just get this out of the way, is in front of present participle. And it's used as while. For example, the present participle of danser is dansant. The present participle of manger is mangeant. And en dansant means while dancing, and en mangeant means while eating. So that's a very common use of the word en, and it's a very different use than the other ones that we'll be talking about later. This one is generally not really confused with y, because we don't have y, we never have y in front of a present participle. So this use is very different from the other uses of the word en that we'll talk about shortly. But since it is a use of the word en, I wanted to include it in this video. Now, a second use of en is with verbs or phrases that are usually followed by de, to avoid repeating the other word again. I'll give you an example. It is usually used with, for example, avoir envie de, avoir besoin de. So to want to or to need to. For example, je parle du temps qu'il fait. J'en parle. So I'm talking about the weather. I'm talking about it or of it. Elle a besoin d'une nouvelle robe. Elle en a besoin. She needs a new dress. She needs one. So in English, you would say she needs one, but you could say she needs one of them or of it, if that helps. So remember, instead of saying j'ai besoin de quelque chose or j'ai envie de quelque chose, instead of repeating de quelque chose, we could use en. Elle a besoin d'une nouvelle robe, je parle du temps qu'il fait, elle en a besoin, j'en parle, il est fier de ses résultats, il en est fier, he's proud of his results, he's proud of it or proud of them. En can also be used to replace the partitive article du, de la, de l'apostrophe, or des. By the way, if you don't know what a partitive article is, or if you want to learn more about articles in general, make sure to watch this video up here or in the description below. An example is j'ai acheté du lait, j'en ai acheté. I bought some milk, I bought some of it. So here, milk was uncountable. That's why we used du lait, which means some milk. But you could buy an apple, or you could buy 2 apples. And this time we won't use a partitive article. You won't say j'ai acheté de la pomme. You could say j'ai acheté une pomme, or j'ai acheté 2 pommes, or j'ai acheté des pommes in general. But now let's just say, in English, I want to say, I bought 2 apples, I bought 2 of them. Instead of them, we can use en. So in French, that would be j'ai acheté 2 pommes, j'en ai acheté 2. So when they were uncountable, we used a partitive article, for example, du lait, du riz, and we said j'en ai acheté, and that's it. Here, when we have actual numbers, and we want to say, for example, 5 of them, j'en ai acheté 5. So of them, that's the en, and then we add the number that we want to add later. Or you could say something like j'en ai acheté quelques-uns. I bought a few of them. Again, of them is un, a few is quelques-uns, some of them. If you're getting value out of this video already, consider smashing that like button and maybe even consider subscribing, joining the family. It's a pretty fun family. Now let's move on to I. So it's actually the letter Y, but it's pronounced as I. Don't ask me why, I have no idea why. Keep in mind that I, again, is not used for people, but it's used for things and animals, for example. A very common use of I is to mean there. So it's often used to replace phrases that have dans, in, sur, on, or chez, at, for example. For example, did you look in your bag? I'm sure that your pens are there. In French, that would be as-tu regardé dans ton sac? Je suis sûre que les stylos y sont. As-tu regardé dans ton sac? Je suis sûre que les stylos y sont. Y sont, are there. Or maybe someone is asking you, tu vas à la plage demain? You're going to the beach tomorrow? And you can reply, yes, I'm going there. Oui, j'y vais. Another use of the word I is with verbs and phrases that are normally followed by a accent grave, pronounced as a, to avoid repeating that word again. So in the previous example, we used a, tu vas à la plage? Oui, j'y vais. But it meant more like there. But here, a means about, which is why I put it as a different use of the word I. This example will make it clearer. Je pense à mon rendez-vous. J'y pense. I'm thinking about my date. I'm thinking about it. So I'm not thinking there this time. I'm thinking about it. J'y pense. So a few verbs that use a normally are penser à, to think about, or réfléchir à, ou s'intéresser à, to be interested about something. Elle s'intéresse à la poésie. Elle s'y intéresse. She's interested in poetry. She's interested in or about it. Now that you know whether to use en or I, you still have to figure out where to put it in that sentence. Is it at the beginning of the sentence, completely at the end, in the middle, before a noun, after a verb? So where to place en or I? En and I usually, in most cases, come before the verb. More specifically, in a lot of cases, it actually comes just before the verb. For example, Jean parle. Elle en discute. Il en veut. Ils en achètent. J'en suis fière. Tu sais comment y aller? So there's two verbs this time, but the I is associated with aller, because we're going there. So it comes just before that verb. Or another example is je n'y pense plus. Again, it comes just before the verb penser in this case. Now, there is an instance where it actually comes after, just after the verb. And that's when we're giving an order or a command, but in the affirmative. So basically, when you're telling someone to do something. When you're telling someone to not do something, then it's before the verb, and we're gonna talk about that in just a second. But when you're giving an order or an instruction to tell someone to do something, then en or I comes after the verb. It comes just after the verb, and it's separated by a hyphen. So we have the verb in the imperative form because we're giving an order. We have a hyphen, then we have I or en. For example, vas-y, prenez-en. So prenez-en, take some of it, or take some of them, prenez-en. So now if it's an order or an instruction, but in the negation, so you're telling someone to not do something, then our previous rule applies. We're going to use the same examples. We had take some of it or take some of them. Now we're going to say do not take some of it. So we are not going to say ne prenez pas en. We are going to say n'en prenez pas. N'en prenez pas. If you got value out of this video, please give it a big thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that bell notification so you never miss a video from us. Follow us on Instagram at Let Us Learn French Official, where we give you a new French word of the day every single day. To thank you for staying until the end, I have a bonus tip for you. So if there is a COD or COE in that sentence, and by the way, if you don't know about COD and COE, watch that video up here in the description below. It's a very important concept in French. But if you know about COD and COE, you would know that they are also usually located around the verb. But if we said that the COD and COE comes just before the verb, but also en and e comes just before the verb, then which one actually comes just before the verb? So the rule is that en or e comes after the other COD or COE in that sentence. For example, je lui en ai parlé. So I talked to him about it. Or, elle t'en a acheté deux. A final example is donne-nous-en. So give us some of it or some of them. Again, en comes after nous, which here, nous is a COE. Thanks again for watching. Share this video with your family and friends who also want to learn French. And as a thank you, here are 2 other videos for you. Have fun. Thank you so much for watching until the end. Have a beautiful day and I'll see you next Sunday. Take care.